Triple G and Canelo was. So there's two aspects to this. Obviously, there's all the stuff that went beforehand when you're like, not really sure if Canelo should be fighting, and then the fight starts, and actually, just to look at it as entertainment before we come back to everything else. It's about as good as it's supposed to be, right?
All that went on before the year before, from the September to September, it's almost forgivable. Like, it's just, you can almost justify it, like that he deserved to be in that ring for what they did in that ring. Like, it was unbelievable. Each round, like, the only way to surmise it was like each round was like the last round of a completely dead even fights that they fought every round like it meant something. You know, there was no breaks, there was no taking off. Every round was competed at the highest level, and it's a classic fight. That fight could stand up there with a classic, one of the best fights of any era. Was it?
As a result of it being a classic and so close, can it go either way in your mind?
Look, I watched the fight. I didn't score. I don't really sit down and score fights round by round. I would do it in review maybe if there is a controversial. If I saw something that everyone else was going against. But I thought Canelo won the fight just by watching it. I thought he won it. Not clear. It was close rounds. It was a close fight, but he won it cleanly to me. He was the better fighter on the night. He forced the action. It was almost like a complete reverse of the last fight where he backed up and he kind of took what insults or what people threw against him, that he was backing up. He spent the time on the ropes, and he kind of turned it and used it against him, and he forced Golovkin back. No one's ever seen anyone do that to Golovkin. Pushed him back and made him look weary, you know, and stood there in the middle of the ring, which nobody expected, and forced the action. And he had the better quality punches, landed the better quality punches, and even when he was hurt, you know, there was one punch in the 10th round, like Golovkin looked to be like going down, degrading, you know, his energy seemed to be slipping, and he was getting caught more easily. And he kind of, at one point in the 10th round, he kind of like, he almost hit himself, like to wake himself up, like this is not, like kind of his last stand, like he wouldn't allow it to happen to himself. And he ended up catching Canelo with like a beautiful right hand. Canelo ate it, and just in the immediate trade after it, Canelo slipped maybe 5 or 6 punches, and that to me showed that, like, there's a scoring of punches landed, but it's not only about punches landed, it's about quality of punches, and also ring generalship, and who's, like, if they said Golovkin won the first fight because he forced the issue, he was pressing the fight, you could say that exactly for Canelo this time. Like, it's a close fight, but it's not controversial to me.
Yeah.
Why do you think there was such a disparity then? Because it seemed that on BT Sport they were pretty hardline in their view that Golovkin
I don't know.
won.
Look, most of us would watch it on Air Sport, and it would have been Barry Jones and John Mullins, who was the commentators, and I just couldn't believe what I was listening to. Like, and I know Barry and those guys, and they're good, they're generally good commentators, but maybe they were seeing a different fight in the arena. But I just
HBO had the same view.
Yeah, but I just couldn't believe, and I think maybe there's some moral, you know, like sometimes your judgment can be clouded because you're invested, and maybe because of Canelo failing a test, he was the villain and people wanting him to lose. I don't know. I just watched the fight. I have no investment. I don't care who wins or loses now. You know, and I watched the fight, and like I could see like Barry Jones. Oh, that was another dominant round for GGG, and like I was like, what are they watching? I couldn't believe what was saying. But sometimes it doesn't. What you see in the arena is different from what you see on screen. But I just thought Canelo won the fight, and I thought I was. There was some, like, I think, you know, those guys would be reading tweets while they're watching the fights, Barry Jones anyway, and then maybe he was thinking, oh, maybe like I should sway the other way a little bit, because on Twitter people are saying that was a Canelo round. I don't know, but I was just watching the fight, and I thought Canelo was dominating. GG was always in the fight. Golovkin was always in the fight, and he won a lot of the rounds, but Canelo won more to me.
He must have felt pretty aggrieved afterwards. Like, maybe I picked this up wrong, but did he storm out of the ring?
He stormed out of the ring, no interview, which was not like him at all. He was gracious in the post-fight press conference, where he just talked about he didn't want to say he won the fight, but he felt like he boxed better, and that he wanted to have a third fight.
Yeah, well, so he said he wanted a third fight, but Canelo also came out and went, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see this becoming the type of thing, you can sell a third fight pretty easily on the back of the highlights on that one. Just a reminder, OTB AM is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. Check out Screwfix.ie. A third fight's the right thing to do?
Yeah, I think so. And like, like just looking ahead, it will only compound the draw and now this win for Canelo, and he'll probably win the third match pretty handedly, if not more clearly than this one, because Golovkin is 36 now, will be 37 by the time they fight again, and Canelo's only going to get better, and he's seen and he's shown that he can fight Golovkin two ways, and I think it'll be a clearer win for Canelo if they do go again.
Would they go in Vegas again? Because that was the talk afterwards.
Yeah, maybe they'll push to go to New York. It'll be interesting to see. Canelo's contract with HBO is up, and he has fought on Showtime before. Maybe they'll try and if he goes to Showtime, there'll be no third match. But I think they'll do everything they can, because it's the biggest fight, and it's definitely, like, I'm just thinking about it, like at the weekend, Mayweather and Pacquiao II was announced. I don't sure how much of the business side of it is done.
Was it really
It seems
announced?
like they met somewhere in a nightclub.
Does this count?
And
Is it a real
was
thing?
confirmed by video. I don't know, but they seem to have announced it now that they're going to fight each other. But who wants to see that?
I don't know anybody who would actually pay. Particularly, it's like you're talking about $100 in America to watch these fights. Like, we get them a bit cheaper in the side of the planet, but like no one wants to watch it. The two of them hugging each other for 12 rounds. No thanks.
Give me Pacquiao Can any day of the week.
Yeah, it'd be a more competitive fight. And Golovkin Canelo 3. You know, if they go to fight again, it will be in May, which will be interesting, because that's when Mayweather loves to fight. You know, that's when he likes to fight on the Mexican Cinco de Mayo weekend. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Maybe one will be on Showtime, one will be on HBO.
I'm looking at Bad Left Hook's rankings for the middleweights, and so Canelo's number 1 after this, but Golovkin's still number 2. They've got Daniel Jacobs 3, Billy Joe Saunders 4, Derevianchenko is 5, Murata is 6, Charlo is 7, Andrade 8, and Lemieux is 9 after Spike O'Sullivan.
Yeah. Well, like, they're due to fight now at the end of October, Danny Jacobs. They're going to fight for the IBF title. That's the other like Billy Joe Saunders has a WBO, and the IBF is vacant. So there will be a unified champion. I think by this time next year they will have a unified champion, because there's a willingness for those guys to fight each other. But I think the other champions would have all wanted Golovkin to win, because they could see that he's slowly just slowly losing a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas Canelo's only going in one direction, and that's up.
It doesn't seem to work for the old guy in these fights. Just looking at some of the ESPN stats. So, like, if you look at the past 14 title fights that have put a fighter over the age of 30 against one under the age of 30, the younger athlete is 11-2-1. So that's a pretty stark record. He's really up against it now. Yeah, and with Canelo's a franchise fighter. You know, he's not like Golovkin is not there in that kind of, you know, Canelo comes. It's either May, it's September, it's in Vegas, and there's an industry built around that, you know, pay-per-view as well as like live gate action receipts and people flooding from all over the country to see him. Golovkin never really reached that height, you know. He appealed to the Mexican fans, and he did win a lot of them over because of his style of fighting, and he kind of championed that Mexican style of fighting. But in New York, Golovkin had a good base, and now with these last few fights in Vegas, but there's certain fighters, you know, like Mayweather, Cotto, and now Canelo's in that bracket where they're kind of
wherever you put
their
them
events. Yeah, their events.
Does Golovkin's coach have a point? Because like the one thing we could hear certainly from the corner throughout the fight was go lower, go lower, go lower. What did he mean by that? And did he have a point? And did he execute that after he was told that?
I don't know. He was set like, not that I don't know if he. I don't know that he executed. What he meant by was body shots and go low with your head, like stay out low, you know, and exit low. But like Canelo landed some throat. Like you have to just, of all this stuff we're talking about, decisions, who won, you just have to appreciate the fight that they put on, you know, and just the skill level. It was the highest level of boxing that you're likely to see, and the fact that Canelo didn't box, he just chose to mix it. He deserves credit for making it the fight that it was, and like it was insane. You have to appreciate the chins and also the conditioning of their bodies, because some of the body shots that they landed, like they would have broke most men.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's when the questions about like.
And like
here,
I said, every round was like a last round of a fight that needed to be won on the last round from the start, and it was just like I was just in awe of the two guys in the ring.
yeah. And then slightly kind of like wondering about the fact that here's Canelo with his drugs ban now. It definitely.
There's definitely a black mark above him, and I think it will be, and people will always be throwing that in his face no matter what he does from now on. So we'll see, you know, unless even now you'd still be wondering, you know,
Yeah.
because there are techniques and there are things that they can do that are beyond the test. It's, you know.
And also, there's a residual value from having taken them in the first place. That,
Yeah.
like, you know,
He did look smaller, but in saying that you could say he looked smaller because he wasn't on clenbuterol, he wasn't eating beef, but he looked faster, and maybe that was a tactic that he wanted to trim down a bit more because he might have been too bulky in the first fight, and he couldn't maintain, because he was carrying so much bulk, he couldn't maintain the pace in the first fight. But he did look trimmer, and he looked the fresher of the two fighters going down the stretch.
this is a kind of classic period now for middleweights, like as good as, you know, obviously history always massively overvalues the history because nobody can ever go back and touch but if we start putting these fights together and you start seeing, so Billy Joe Saunders is out in October against Demetrius, is it Andrade or Andrade?
Andrade, they say, yeah.
Andrade, okay. As you said, Daniel Jacobs is out in October as well against Derevyanchenko. Like, if they were to win those two fights, that's 4 and 5 in these rankings. Saunders is 4, Derevyanchenko's 5, Jacobs is 3. Like, if they were all to fight properly and Canelo and Golovkin go again next year, then if we do have a unified middleweight champion of the world, it felt like that was never going to happen again.
Well, and I don't. Even now, I think we can all agree Canelo is the best middleweight, and Golovkin's. Even though the other guys might be champions, Golovkin's still better than the other two. I'd say on paper, whether he might beat those guys again, he's beaten Johnny Jacobs already, but whether he would beat Billy Joe Saunders and whether he would beat Johnny Jacobs in a rematch, we don't know. But
they could be super fights now, though.
They could be super fights.
Like, you could definitely see.
And they will be, if they happen, which they could. There's always, like, Andrade might upset the apple cart because he's a very good boxer. He's a guy who would have sparred a lot, and he's a southpaw, and he's got very quick hands. I think Billy Joe Saunders got a bit more experience than him, and maybe a bit mentally mature for him, and would probably edge it. But I can see it being a tough fight, and if Billy Joe Saunders is not on his game, it could be a bad night for him. But I don't see Derevyanchenko beating Danny Jacobs. But it will make, like, if they had the third match, they should have the third match, Golovkin Canelo. The winner of that will fight either Danny Jacobs or Billy Joe Saunders. Yeah. And then we'll see, we'll see which way.
The loser of that can fight. Like,
but you look cross boxing from, we're going to have this World Super Series in the bantamweight division now. There'll be a unified champion in the bantamweight division in a year or two, a year and a half maybe. Cruiserweight, we have a unified champion in Alexander Usyk. He's going to fight Tony Bellew, which was announced in the previous week as well. So, like, boxing has really stepped up, and it's one of the best periods in boxing that we've had in maybe forever. It's in a long time.
It's kind of come from the abyss almost, hasn't it?
Yeah, and like we spoke about it on Off the Brawl last week, it's probably the advent of UFC and social media, because people are calling each other out and they got nowhere to hide. You kind of have to give an answer, and you can't lose face. Egos being what they are. So these fights are being made and they're being played out in public, and as fans, we're getting we're getting the results of that.
Yeah, for sure. Two quick things. Is Mayweather Pacquiao real? Do you think it was real, or was it just them reminding everybody
it
of their
could just be staying relevant? Yeah. Who knows? And who cares? Like people will pay for it. I would imagine. Like, who knows? Like, who knows? Who knows what will happen? There'll be some orchestrated stunt somewhere. Mayweather will end up slapping Pacquiao or something like that.
But Pacquiao doesn't really fight at that level anymore, right?
Not really, but they're like, they'll spin it. Look at the first fight. Pacquiao landed more punches, threw more punches, and they'll make a case. You
do wonder with those fights. So say Canelo against Golovkin, the first day was a pretty disappointing fight, and like in the build up to this, I think they were saying it on TV as well on Saturday night, it was like, well, they owe us a good fight and stuff like that, and you're thinking to yourself, well, this is bullshit, they don't care what anybody says, but they ended up delivering. So there might have been some part of their mind that was allowed for that idea to seep in, but surely Floyd Mayweather, that idea never seeps into his head that he's got to deliver entertainment wise.
No, never, ever. So that's not, his entertainment comes outside, and the build up and the hype, and that's what you buy in for. And then the fight's is inevitable, it's inevitable that he's going to win.
Yeah.
There should be a good fight at Wembley on Saturday. It's Anthony Joshua back in the ring against Povetkin, and I mean, it's hard to know. Maybe I'm selling that wrong. Maybe there shouldn't be a good fight. Joshua has fought down to the level of his opponents, but this guy is a bit better than some of the guys he's been beaten.
Yeah, he's probably the only asterisk is that he's a bit old now, Povetkin. But he's only lost to Klitschko, and there's another asterisk, another big asterisk, that he's failed drug test twice.
Yeah.
But on terms of skill and paper, he's the best opponent Joshua's faced outside of Klitschko. He's an Olympic champion, and he's a real threat. He's a different style, but I don't know. With his age, he's not as mobile as he used to be. Maybe he was never really that mobile at all, but he'll have to be if he's going to try and get inside Joshua's big arms and big punches. And I can just see Joshua dominating him, even though he is a very good opponent, and will carry some danger, especially with the right hand over the top, which is probably his best punch, and the left hook. But I can just see Joshua dominating him.
What are your heavyweight power rankings at the moment?
It's fair. Well, if Joshua wins this, which he probably will, I would say Joshua's still number one. If Fury and Wilder fight, the winner of that will have a serious challenge. Serious. If the winner of Fury and Wilder will be number one because of
who you've beaten.
The beating of each other, yeah. And we'll see if that's still yet to be confirmed. I have a sneaky suspicion that fight will be announced this week, just when Joshua and Povetkin are trying to push for their pay-per-view numbers. Just trying to push the promotion. You'll see some sort of trying to steal the fund out in some sort of way. Wilder and Fury might meet up at the weigh-in or something.
unless Dillian White comes storming into the ring after Joshua. What can they do?
You look at we've talked about the middleweight division, bantamweight division, cruiserweight. But look at the heavyweight division now. And for years we've been crying out for this. It was dominant by Klitschko for so long. You just mentioned Dillian White. There's also Jared Miller. There's also up-and-coming fighters like Daniel Dubois. It's coming alive again. Hughie Fury's going to fight. He's going to fight the guy from, I can't think of his name, from Bulgaria, but that's an eliminator for the IBF, and if he wins that, he'll be challenging Joshua. So it's all in the mix again. It's beautiful. It's great. It's great to see, and like I said, we as fans are getting the benefits.
Yeah, you'd like to see Joshua challenged by Povetkin, because he's exciting when he is actually challenged and when he's taking punches, because that kind of brings him out of his shell. But in retrospect, we might look back at this as like that middle period of Anthony Joshua's career where he learned his craft in a way that he wasn't really allowed to do because of how quickly they accelerated his career.
Yeah, but this is still a dangerous fight. He's fighting an Olympic super heavyweight gold medalist and a guy who's only been defeated once. He's had he kind of had a stop and start career, Alexander Povetkin. Hasn't really reached the heights that you would have assumed he would have coming out of the amateurs. He's had 5 coaches throughout that time where he's chopped and changed, and he also had that time with the drug test, so there was fights cancelled. Yeah. But this is it's a dangerous fight, and if he for him it's huge. It's no loss, because he's kind of coming out of the dark, and if he loses the fight, which people expect him to, he just probably retires and goes off with a nice paycheck. And he was a champion, but he never reached the heights. But if he can win this, he's right in the mix, and he's a dangerous opponent for everybody. Yeah, so we'll see.
That lack of a motivation, though, I'd imagine. You talk about that ability to just coast off into the sunset. That surely takes the edge off your motivation. You look at
even that. It's easy to say. No, he can. For him, it's a completely different picture. This is us looking from the outside. He was a good fighter, but he stayed in Russia, and he didn't really come to America and impose himself. But no, in his mindset, he's coming to win, and he won't want to go off quietly into the night. He was going to want to rage against the dying.
Yeah. It doesn't always work out that way. Andy, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Yeah, thanks.